Let's dive into our 2024 predictions today. We're going to be taking a look at about, I think, 22 plus categories for you that is going to be looking at a variety of scenarios that play out in the crypto markets. You guys don't want to miss this one. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. If you guys are looking to do a crypto IRA, one of the best places to go is, of course, iTrust. Just visit itrustcapital.com. You can join over 200,000 people and accounts over on iTrust, 7.8 billion in transactions. It's a great place to do whether you like altcoins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even precious metals. All of that can be done within your iTrust trading account. All you have to do is click our link down below. That'll get you a $100 funding reward if you decide to go somewhere in that direction. So check it out. All right, a couple of things we're going to hit on here. I'm going to go to our whole slide deck to break this down. We'll go into different categories for you. I'll go into a handful of narratives that support our findings in terms of this 2024 prediction. These are categories that we think are going to do well, and they're also some of the projects that we think are most you're going to recognize, some you may not, but hopefully this will give you guys a lot more research to get going on in 2024. Let's start off with our banking group, and that, of course, is going to be Coinbase, Robinhood. We also think Gemini, and then Juno. These are pretty much projects and companies that we've talked about throughout the year. Juno maybe not as much, and Gemini not a whole lot. But when you look at Robinhood and Coinbase, they, of course, have been pretty much front and center in the space. A couple of points I want to showcase here. One, of course, is just to give you an idea here on what's happening with Base. Base, of course, I think is one of the core things that Coinbase has been able to do this year that has really put them in the right position in their own blockchain. I think obviously you can see here just by the growth, we'll continue to see that in 2024. And the bigger thing that I think will play a part of how Coinbase goes forward is some of the partnerships. So be paying attention there. And whether you're following the stock or you're just looking at Coinbase as an exchange, this is one of the reasons they're going to continue to do well. Juno, earning a lot of opportunity. I think this is going to be maybe get some of the Revolut crowd. If you think about, neobanks and this whole evolution of next generation finance, Juno kind of falls into that. And they are a trading exchange, so you can, of course, get into crypto and do a lot of other things within it. Check it out if you guys think, maybe you've never heard of it. So explore it a little bit. Another one that I want to kind of dive into, of course, is Robinhood expanding their crypto trading over in the EU. And this is, I think, going to be one of the big wins for Robinhood this year. It's probably why we have seen the Robinhood stock continue to inch up and do very well over this last 60 days is basically their movement into the EU. And with what we've seen with MiCA, which is the EU crypto regulations, this could play well for Robinhood in not only a short period of time, but also long, maybe in the long run, especially around bringing in new traders and getting a lot more activity. Things that also, I think, play into this is going to be credit cards. And if you look at credit card rewards, Gemini pretty much leads the pack here. These are real-time rewards on crypto. So you can actually get 3% back on dining, but it goes directly into crypto. So that's one of the cool scenarios within Robinhood. So let's go back over to the deck, and we'll go to the next section, which is fiat payments for NFTs. And CrossMint has pretty much led the way here. And there's a few things happening with NFTs, and I think onboarding is one of those big categories that has to be solved. CrossMint, of course, gets you into that. If you kind of take a look at their platform, you can learn a little bit more around what they've been able to do, which is kind of a wallet as a service. But this, I think, will be one of the key opportunities in the NFT sector. So we got to keep an eye on that, of course. The next one I want to get into is software wallets. And software wallets, I think, really lead the space in two major wallets. There's a lot of wallets out there. What we're looking for is the best opportunity for growth, adoption, and also just what can help our audience. And we think Phantom, of course, leading the way within the Solana ecosystem, and the Coinbase wallet, obviously, just with their ability to connect to the largest exchange and also the potential of what Base brings to the market. I think this is going to be a big one. And when you think about that, I mean, you just have to look at Phantom in general. I mean, this gives you a tremendous tool. If you're not already in the Phantom ecosystem, this is one of those that is going to continue to fly, I think, in a big way. And if you look at Coinbase, here's a good example right here. Last minute holiday. I don't know if you guys saw this. We did a whole video on this, but it was basically the ability to send crypto pretty much at no cost. And this is USDC. Their tie-in with USDC and Circle is very critical because I think this also will maybe give the opportunity for new people coming into the space. This will be an excellent way to onboard. And I think also it gets recognized as a major financial tool for kind of this next generation, which is going to be millennials, Gen Z, et cetera, kind of coming onto the crypto scene. That's a big part of the future of where a lot of this is going to be going. I'm going to show you guys a couple other things I want to hit on because we've covered this quite a bit on the channel, and that is the hardware wallets. And of course, hardware wallets, when you look at that, Tangem has been one of the ones that we've kind of, obviously a partner of the channel, but we've done quite a bit in terms of a Ledger alternative. And Ledger was one of the projects that I felt let us down a little bit this year. I'm looking at other alternatives for next year. So when it comes to hardware wallets, the ones I'm looking at right now is Tangem and also, guess what, Saga. This is going to be the first phone that could be a hardware wallet, at least in the terms of use case. Now, the key here is if Saga, Solana, can be able to get to a scalability position. Because remember, they just sold out. I think I heard Anatoly talk about 15,000 phone orders in one day. They were canceling orders because of stock and low stock supply. They've got to be able to scale the manufacturing of that, which I think most likely they will be able to. And if it does happen, then we may have our first true mobile device that is a true hardware wallet. So we'll see how that goes, I think, in the future. All right, so also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, make sure and do that right now because we're trying to hit the 400K mark, 397.91 as we are recording this right now. So we're so close. It's not yet the end of the year. I think we've got about 4 or 5 days left. So this should be able to make its way up to 400K, but we appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. If you want to learn a little bit more, this is the place to come. So just hit that little subscribe button right now. Also, drop in some comments. I'd love to get your feedback on where you think some of these predictions are going. I'll go into the next category, and this is going to be DEXs, decentralized exchanges, and who could be the winners here. Obviously, these logos, some of them you might recognize. Uniswap, I think, will continue on its run. DEX-a-lot, of course, riding over in the Avalanche ecosystem. Radium in the Solana ecosystem, along with Jupiter and also Orca. Some of these you probably already recognize because you're using the Phantom wallet, or maybe you're using DEX-a-lot, or maybe you're over on Uniswap. But whatever it is, let me know your favorite DEX and what you guys think, because there's quite a bit there. When you look at what's happening within that, just to give you an example, Uniswap, obviously a lot of growth. And remember the Uniswap V3 launch, I think Uniswap is in a position right now to potentially be a major catalyst or have a major catalyst in 2024. And as you guys have probably heard me say, I think this is going to be a big year for crypto. And the capability of these DEXs, I think, get maybe exposed to real mass adoption. Because remember, it's kind of the crypto OG crowd that understands these. And for the first time, I'm starting to hear, traditional finance, Wall Street types talk about DEXs and what that future might be. Avalanche is another one I want to just keep an eye on what's happening there with the subnet ecosystem. Avalanche will continue to do some pretty amazing things. All right, so further into this, of course, is going to be DEX-a-lot. DEX-a-lot just showing the growth here over the 1 year mark. This, I think, will also be very popular within the Avalanche ecosystem just for the potential of swaps and also just DeFi in general. We're going to see a lot of activity in that space. Now, we've covered this quite a bit, and we did a full-blown video on what's happening within the Phantom ecosystem. If you guys didn't watch that, it was the biggest airdrop ever video, so go check that one out. That's talking about Jube, the potential there with Orca, Radium, etc. All of those really kind of set for a very interesting position. All right, back to our deck here. Let me go to our next category. This is going to be ETF winners. Yep. All right, so ETF winners, these are the three that I think probably have the best opportunity to get market share and the advantage they have in terms of adoption with new products and services that could bring in a whole slew of new investors. But obviously, iShares with BlackRock, 21 shares, that being Cathie Wood's group, and then, of course, Fidelity Digital Assets. Now, remember that Fidelity has been a big leader in the space already. You could buy crypto, Bitcoin, and Ethereum within Fidelity pretty much all year and hold it. Now, there isn't hasn't been a lot of advancements in terms of wallet control, meaning be able to send out. I think if they get to that state, then Fidelity could get to be a very interesting project going forward. And if you think about the other one, 21 shares, just the amount of products that they are bringing to the market. I mean, just look at the products that are available here. This is the active Bitcoin futures. You've got the Ethereum future strategy, on-chain Bitcoin, quite a bit here. Point being is that 21 shares is probably going to bring a lot more products to the market. You think about BlackRock and you have to just go with their total size. I mean, I'll zoom in on that to give you guys kind of an understanding, but that's 8.5 trillion under management for BlackRock. Closest one to them, Fidelity, running about half that at 4.5 trillion. And then you've got Vanguard, of course, right behind them at around 7.2. But BlackRock definitely going to be one of the big ones for sure. All right, so let's jump into our next section. And this is going to be rendering and AI mining. Now, these are the three that we like. And this, of course, is Render Token. You've heard us talk about that quite a bit. The future of cloud compute and decentralized compute. Render is definitely in the right path. The other one that's kind of interesting is Hut 8. Not a partner of ours, but we have Sue on quite a bit in understanding where the future of miners might be going. If you think about what miners might be doing to hedge their bet for potential AI and also render and compute, Hut 8 could be the one to play. So that's another opportunity. IONET is the one that we've talked about quite a bit. It has a great future as well. There's a lot happening within that group. And we've covered some of these here. Of course, you saw some of our videos on Hut 8, and we've had Sue on, as I said, many times. So within that, Sue, in this video, we talk about all three of those pretty much, Hut 8, IONET, Render, all of these potentially lining up as an opportunity here for sure. All right, our next category I want to go to is DePIN. And this is decentralized infrastructure that has really started to develop quite a bit. And all of this was somewhat released at what we saw with the Solana event. And when Breakpoint happened this year, it was very interesting because we had seen a year's worth of not only development, but also new innovation coming out of some of the projects that we looked at the year before that I was very excited about. And then, of course, we had the FTX thing. But Solana was able to recover off that. And the ones to watch, of course, has been Helium Mobile. This, I think, is going to go viral. The opportunity of mapping and being paid and getting rewards within that system. There's no other ecosystem out there in the mobile sector. This, of course, ties well into what's happening on Solana. Hive Mapper is another one. This is a mapping solution that essentially will, again, give you rewards for a mapping solution. It has a little hardware. We've talked about this show quite a bit. And if you haven't followed us on what we've talked about there, here's some of the videos that we did on these Drive and Earn. But this was Hive Mapper's CEO that came on the show. And we broke it down because there's a lot happening there in that Solana ecosystem, especially on the DePIN side. Back to the other ones that I want to, take just a quick look at is Teleport. Teleport is one that is interesting because it has the opportunity here to somewhat, I know this is going to sound crazy, but displace Uber. How could they be able to do that? Well, the key here with Teleport, when you look at what the future of what they're going to do, one of the things is this right here. This is an example of what a payment is to a driver. That's a driver earning 90%. There is no way Uber keeps up with that. If this particular project can scale and we see it do it at a level that we see a certain amount of rider adoption as well, this is one to watch very closely. Now, Teleport, of course, is on the Solana ecosystem, so there's a lot that could cross over into other use cases, and I'll explain that in a second. But that is the other strength of the Solana network because it has so many of these projects that can somewhat interoperate with each other, and that is an opportunity I think that is yet to been discovered. So that's a cool feature as well. All right, so this next slide and breaking down this category, ETH and Solana bridges. The fees obviously are one of the driving factors here. Solana pretty much, no fee. And then you've got what's happening within the ETH ecosystem, which is why I think these bridges have a great opportunity to really excel in 2024. And of course, within that, you've got Pyth, Neon EVM, which we've talked about here recently, and Allbridge, all of which we've identified very early to keep an eye on. So many of these have tokens, but the key here is the functionality. I think that's going to be one of the biggest strengths. Another slide I want to go to is this one right here, Bitcoin Scaling Solutions. And Bitcoin Scaling Solutions is interesting because there's a need for this, and we have not necessarily seen a clear-cut winner. You know, everybody probably would refer to Stacks. I'll jump to a few of these, but Stacks is one. Yes, Stacks on the 1 year has done pretty well if you invest in it as a token. But if you look at Thorchain, I mean, literally, this thing has come off the floor into just an unbelievable growth. And this is another way for transactions to be done within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And if you look at ordinals, this is where ordinals, I think, do not go anywhere. It's going to continue to keep Bitcoin. I mean, look at all these BRC20s over here that are happening within, obviously dominating a lot of what's happening on Bitcoin itself. So all of that, I think, continues to show some interesting narratives behind Bitcoin. And of course, transactions are going to be one of the key things. With that also, you've got Ordi that is playing into this big, huge move here in the first, in the 1 year, going up to almost $70, 174% on the 1 year. So all of these potentially still a big player, a big narrative for Bitcoin as a whole in 2024. All right, so what we put here on this last question mark is, could be a new entry. With the ETFs, there could be a lot more opportunity here for that. This will get intriguing, especially as the ETFs mature, but also as the use case for Bitcoin starts to get into some of these scaling solutions. So very interesting times for Bitcoin as a whole. So let's go to our next slide, Ethereum scaling solutions. The three ones that I think most people would agree with is Polygon, of course, a layer 2 with Ethereum, Optimism, and of course Base. Now these have been on the front of the news, I think, pretty much all year long. Polygon was a little bit of a disappointment this year. I don't know if it was necessarily a disappointment because of performance, but more importantly, I think because of partnerships. Base had, of course, an unbelievable summer launch, which they did tremendous, not only transactions, but they showcased what Base was capable of. And I think that's an interesting scenario that plays into this. Optimism, of course, plays into this because of its involvement with Base, and I think that is another factor into this. So these are ones that you want to watch for 2024. If you look at some of these, so let me kind of just show you here on DeFi Llama. This, of course, is Base, Polygon, and Optimism. And you can kind of see the growth here. Of course, total value locked, but look at the transaction comparisons right here. Polygon's still leading the way at 5.1 million, but Base and Optimism, and Base, very intriguing because it's so young at almost 361,000 transactions versus 438 on Optimism. So again, these are areas that I think you got to keep an eye on for sure. All right, so we'll go to this next slide. This, of course, is our banking and digital dollar section. Circle, pretty easy to pick that one. Avalanche, obviously, with JP Morgan, the potential for, tokenized assets. I think that is a big future of what we'll see in the banking and digital dollar ecosystem. Ripple, pretty much the alternative to the SWIFT ecosystem in terms of cross-border payments. Then you get into Stellar, which also has been doing a lot of advertising, and I think they're trying to position as an alternative to banking and digital dollar. And then, of course, Chainlink, just the power of the Oracle. These are the five that I think have the most opportunity in 2024, especially in trying to bridge that gap, because that's a big category going forward. The next one we'll jump into is decentralized storage. Now, decentralized storage is a unique one because there's been some players in this, and Filecoin is a good example. Filecoin's been around for a long time. Arweave, we thought would be a little bit further along, maybe not quite as aggressive. And then Flow is the one that is a bit, I won't call it a surprise, but I think they've done some very unique things. And I'll show you a little bit about what Flow has done just in terms of their partnerships. But this has the capacity to truly be more of a storage solution. And when you look at what's happening with the SEC, with some of these other projects in this area, there's an interesting narrative that's, I think, coming in behind Flow on this. So I would lead with Flow, but I also would look at Filecoin and Arweave, both to be on my research list for next year. All right, let's go to our next one, which is going to be our customer loyalty section. Now, this one is very interesting because there's a lot of international here because we haven't seen big adoption here in the US. Obviously, Avalanche has been able to do some very intriguing things with loyalty. If they can win that as a big, because remember that here in the US, most people would say, well, what about Polygon and Starbucks? Not a full rollout yet versus what we have seen in some of these international markets. So up and coming, UPTN, this is another one. Again, Asian markets, lots of users. Also, same thing with PontoWeb. All of these are kind of in a new era of where loyalty is going to translate into blockchain. I think this is another thing that we got to keep an eye on, because for me, the United States is probably going to be the home run. The problem is we haven't seen one hit that home run yet, but a lot of people coming up to bat soon. So we'll see how this one plays out. All right, so just a post from Avalanche here. Another major rewards program coming to Avalanche. This, of course, is Ponta Loyalty Rewards, which is a subnet, new Web3 ecosystem, 100 million existing users. As I said, that's a big, big opportunity here. And if you look at what Upton is doing right here, UPTN, a lot of growth right here in a very short period of time from October through end of this year. So opportunities definitely in the loyalty sector. I think still one of the best utilities for the use case of blockchain. I think retail will be the leader. We'll probably see it with some e-commerce as well, but definitely one to watch for sure. All right, so let's get into our next section. This one's interesting because it's NFT ticketing. Now, this could be an absolute huge category because ticketing is one of the biggest challenges that we face today. And I think these are the two companies, two projects, XP and then TravelX. TravelX riding on Algorand, XP riding on Solana. Very unique opportunities here. The key will be if they can get a major adoption. Now, granted, TravelX has already had some pretty significant moves, but if we get a major artist or someone like a Taylor Swift, etc., that understands how to implement NFT ticketing, this could change the game in that space. So a lot going on there. Yeah, just to give you guys an insight on XP, this is a good example of what they've been able to accomplish so far. A lot of definite artists in here, and I think this is only going to grow with more opportunities in terms of basically partnerships and deals that they'll put together. Another one to look at is this tweet right here, milestone on TravelX, 2 million passengers with TravelX NFT tickets. This is close to breaking out. And riding on Algorand, probably one of the, I would say the diamonds of the Algorand ecosystem. If this one comes into play with major travel integrations or potential partnerships, this is another one that could play out really well in 2024. We're going to get into food now, and I want to go over to this category. And food service is kind of interesting because there's been some small use cases that have been able to do this. Boba Guys, I'll talk about. Solana, of course, mostly within the ecosystem. We'll talk a little bit about Devour, and then Supper Club because they get into some tamper-proof components of this. So Supper Club, definitely one to kind of keep a look at. And I think there's not a lot of companies yet and projects yet to truly crack the code on this. Some, of course, have already moved in this direction around everything from gift cards. This is tamper-proof example right here with Chick-fil-A. This, again, gets into more blockchain opportunities. So definitely some intriguing scenarios playing out here in food. I wish there was more here. And of course, this is a thing that within the food ecosystem, when you look at the size of this market, you're talking about 1 trillion in the US. This is overall revenue. Then you go global and you're talking about almost 5 trillion. So anyone that can crack that is going to be, I think, really in a position. All right, so I want to be careful on this one. This, of course, is Devour Go. I'm an advisor with this company. I've watched it. You guys may not know my background, but I've been in the food retail side for a lot of my career in the tech side. So understanding how this could equate to potential opportunity is intriguing to me. Now, the way that they're going about it is the whole idea of, well, there's a statement here, eat, earn, play. The concept is integrating into gaming and being able to earn rewards, being able to get to ordering from a restaurant, within the app itself. This has a very unique style to it. The thing here that I think all of these projects represent is one challenge, and the challenge is adoption and whether or not they can get critical mass. And that is whether you're, if you're a teleport, getting enough drivers. If you're, someone like, a Hive mapper, you need enough physical devices in cars to be able to map correctly. And if you're, a Devour Go, or you're, another food project, you're gonna need restaurants. You're gonna need that capacity of being able to deal with this. That is the challenge that I think a lot of these early stage projects are going to be facing. However, that being said, this is one of those big markets, much like fashion, music, some of these major milestone markets that I think are going to be a big deal going forward. All right, so we talked a little bit about food having pretty much the most demand. Just that's a consumption, challenge, I think, for the industry. The other one is going to be music. Music has the most demand because of the problems that independent artists face and artists in general face in terms of being able to get their creative done in a way that they don't basically get taken advantage of. Audius, of course, a Solana project, and then another block. Another block is also being propped up by Coinbase and Base. So these are both projects. Now, a year ago, I probably would have said Gala would have been in here. But based on what I'm seeing right now, these are the two I kind of think 2024 will represent as opportunities. Audius, of course, to give an example here, I mean, these guys are continuing to roll, and recently, the token itself has started to move. So definitely the unique users is another big factor here with 4 million unique users. I think this is all good. But the key here, of course, is getting back into getting the partnerships, getting the creators, and getting the talent and the artists tied into this. And I think with Base, they've been able to do it here with another block just by being able to give them a little bit of breath of fresh air. They're actually exposing what's happening with another block. So if you've got them on your side, meaning Coinbase and Base, that I think is a big one. Now, the other category that I think will be huge is fashion. And it's one that kind of went out really hard and fast last year, but it was in a time in which the market was very underserved, meaning we were in a bear market. But Nike and Artifact are the showcase, I think, for fashion. Now, there will be a lot of others. We're going to see all sorts of high-end, designer goods, et cetera, that make it into this. So there's many that are probably already in play, whether you think about what's happening with Burberry, you look at Rolex, you look at Breitling. There's a lot going into this sector, but Nike, Artifact, definitely leading the way for sure. If you look at Nike right now in terms of digital sales growth, slightly this is slightly down, but the point is that even though they're declining traffic, Nike is seeing growth in digital sales. So their investor group is looking at digital sales as one of the criteria for growth. This is where I think a lot of people are starting to understand what Nike's up to. So definitely a big deal. And sales grew 4% in Q2, but were suppressed a little bit by promotional activity online and a little bit of waning web traffic. And I think this will be working its way out as we come out of a financial challenge, but more importantly, I think also out of a bear market. So a lot happening in that category as well. All right, so for web identity, these are the four we're looking at: Immutable Passport, Unstoppable, of course, and then Bonfida, and of course, Mochaverse, which is Mocha ID. All of these have a potential to really kind of bridge that gap for ID. This will be a critical one. The one wild card that could play into this, of course, is X. We'll see how Elon takes this, because this is one that I think has a need, but also there's a lot of creativity within all these projects that could take us in different directions. So keep an eye on that one. The next one I want to focus on is Web3 Social. XMTP, you may have seen this within your Coinbase. This is like in-app messaging. Lens Protocol, XCAD Social. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit about XCAD. This is more of a view to earn concept. And then GuildTech. Now, many of these we've talked about here recently. Lens Protocol, a little bit of in terms of how they work. Go back and watch our Lens videos. You'll learn a little bit more about how potential decentralized social media might work. And I think this is a problem right now. It is an issue where we are seeing so much heat on X. You're seeing, I would say, not necessarily a successful Threads launch by Meta. And then you have what? So there is a window of opportunity that could open up here. XCAD, definitely one to watch as well. I like it because it is very key to the creator community. And I think that's one of the things that could break through and have an opportunity in 2024. All right, so we did a recent video here with Corey at Moray Labs, and he's launched a project here. We've talked about it, and it was called GuildTech. And GuildTech, the idea behind it is intriguing because it's going into guilds basically used as almost as influencers to be able to draw in gamers. Now that in itself, if it creates a social ecosystem, could be big as well. All right, so our next section, streaming ads. This is going to be an interesting one because you got LivePeer, Helio, Veracity, Superfluid, and of course Theta. Some of these are older. Veracity, Theta, of course, have been out there for a little bit. LivePeer is one to kind of keep a watch on, because if gaming does explode, there's going to need to be a new Twitch, and LivePeer could be that. So that's one to watch. Superfluid, same thing. This will get into creator payments, potentially gamer payments. This is an interesting one, obviously with streaming money, pretty much real time. That could also apply to other sectors of business and industry as well. Helio, very interesting, because this is the one that we're missing the most, I feel, and that is subscriptions. Subscriptions could be, and this is one I'd love to see just for our own business, but definitely for a lot of different platforms, this is going to be a big one. Veracity, a little bit more of things that they're doing right now, which are getting into some ad relevance. Their Q4, I'll look at their Q4 roadmap. A little bit into UX improvements. But this one, of course, is on the bubble in the sense of, will it make it in 2024? The question will be partnerships and the ability to make its way into publishers and ad streaming. So there's some key things there. Last up in our category is the corporate wildcard. And the corporate wildcard is Hedera. Now, I know Hedera, we've talked about, we've had Mance Harmon on the show many times. It's one of the key executives over at the Hedera Foundation. Hedera has got to be able to make something of this, because when you look at Hedera, look at the brands that they've got in here: AV Dennison, Boeing, Chainlink Labs, Google, IBM, LG. The whole point behind this is there's a lot of, and Dell's in there, there's a lot of opportunity here for Hedera with correlated partnerships or other potential integrations that many of these companies and governing council members have a great opportunity to bring to Hedera. So this is one that I think could surprise us. So I'm very optimistic about it. One thing to note on Hedera also is that 30 through 39 are unannounced governing council. So there could be some big wins here in terms of big partnerships, especially if you think about the scale in which they've partnered so far. If they outdo it, then that's another opportunity. 2024 could result in some pretty big movement there within Hedera, both on partnerships, etc. So just as a reminder, we're going to be doing a 2024 Web3 and gaming prediction video. So stick around for that one as well. We'll drop it hopefully this week. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe right now. And if you're not in the Diamond Circle, jump in now. It's a great place to get the additional content. We do a couple of podcasts over there. Very easy to do. Just click the link down below. If you guys want to follow me on X, it's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.